new coach of Real Madrid. The club will replace Ancelotti with its own legend. Mbappe criticized Deschamps for not calling him up to the France national team. Passions are running high. Epic Chelsea comeback in the derby against Tottenham. 3 goals in one half. Ronaldo's transfer to Fenerbahce Mourinho. Turkish media came out with loud headlines. And Manchester City, it seems, has gone mad and is about to sign Liverpool's superstar. Are we facing the betrayal of the century? Today we're discussing this and more. Friends, this is Dose of Football and the top 10 hottest news and transfer rumors to this hour. Charge your royal likes so we can work without days off. And be sure to subscribe to my Insta because I only respond to everyone who writes in direct there. Let's chat, ask your questions. And of course, I wish you a pleasant appetite and a pleasant viewing. It's no secret to anyone that Real Madrid is actively interested in Trent Alexander-Arnold and wants to get him for the next summer transfer window. The situation with the contract only favors the Englishman's early move. Negotiations on the extension have stalled, and if nothing fundamentally changes, one of Liverpool's leaders will leave the team at the end of the season. The transition to Real can be perceived by the scouts as a betrayal of their own pupil. Still, the Reds were one of the most principled rivals on the international arena. But compared to another possible continuation of Trent's career, the move to the Madrid club may seem like a walk in the park. Information has emerged that Manchester City is interested in the footballer and is already in talks with the defender's entourage. A key example of such a strategic error is the personnel of Kyle, who were not at maximum combat readiness. A prime example of such a strategic mistake is the staff of Kyle O'Kerr, who can't seem to get anything right. It's this footballer that the Montiti management wants to replace with a Liverpool trainee. But even the source talks about the unlikelihood of such a transfer. According to the internal rules of the league, English clubs can start official negotiations with a player from a competitor just a month before his contract expires, while foreign teams have a whole half year at their disposal. This is such a significant advantage in the fight for the signing of a footballer, especially since Real has been working on Trent's transfer for a long time, and Man City has just joined in. It's unlikely that the citizens will find arguments to convince the defender to go for such a betrayal and move to Manchester. Besides, you can imagine what a fuss will be raised after such a transfer. Let me remind you once again, Trent is a Liverpool trainee and one of those footballers whose name is associated with the most successful head in the club's modern history. Do you remember what happened when Fernando Torres decided to move from Liverpool to Chelsea? The fans couldn't get over the betrayal of the Spanish forward and massively burned jerseys with his name. All of Torres' achievements in Merseyside were crossed out by one wrong career decision. And the Trent in historical terms is much more important than Torres. He won the Premier League and Champions League with his team and was an important part of these victories. And such a footballer will move from Liverpool to Manchester City? I personally don't want to believe this. This season, Manchester City can't please its fans. After a series of successful performances on the home ground, the citizens risk losing the championship and even ending the season in an uncharacteristically low position for themselves. The uncomfortable gap from Liverpool is making Manchester City's coach understand, and the gap from Liverpool is uncomfortable to talk about. The Manchester City coach realizes his team missed a crucial opportunity to begin rebuilding, including Guardiola's own decision. But the Spanish coach is ready to admit his mistake and start the process of generation change. First, the club plans to clean up the squad and then focus on buying new players. Already in the winter window, the team plans to part ways with 4 players who are close to the base, namely with Jack Grealish, Matheus Nunes, James McAtee, and Kyle Walker. The team's head coach believes that Grealish and Nunes did not justify the money that the club spent on their acquisition and is ready to say goodbye to them. Young James McAtee simply did not convince Pep Guardiola that he deserves to continue his career at Etihad, and Kyle Walker shocked the Spanish coach with his sharp decline. As for the future of Grealish and McAtee, it is currently unknown where these two can continue their career. McAtee will surely find a place for himself in some mid-table English Premier League team. Grealish himself may follow his premier. But there's more concrete about the future of 2 other players here. In one of the recent episodes, I mentioned that Matteo Shanunisha could be included in the transfer deal for Bruno Guimaraes from Newcastle United. Knocker has long been eyeing a move to the Saudi Championship. But the transfers of this quartet are just awaiting more global changes. Kevin De Bruyne, a priority target for Miami president David Beckham this summer, may leave the team. The careers of Nathan Ake, Bernardo Silva, Mateo Kovacic, and others are also in question. Summer in Manchester City must seriously update. It's clear as day, but the question is, under which tournament will they be buying new footballers? For the Premier League and the Champions League, or still for the Championship? One of the most talented forwards of today might make a shocking transfer for 100 million euros already in the winter window. Before his departure from Sporting Lisbon, Ruben Amorim said that Dekaresha should stay at Sporting until the end of the season, and only then decide where to continue his career. However, the situation around the forward is evolving quickly, and the near future remains uncertain. A number of contenders have formed for him, who are playing out his transfer among themselves. Mainly, these are English clubs, the same Manchester United, coached by former mentor Dekaresha, looking to strengthen Arsenal's attack, his London neighbor Chelsea, and maybe even Liverpool. Spanish tops and French Paris Saint-Germain are also watching him. The rest either don't need a central forward, or they don't have enough resources to buy Dekaresha. But almost all of the listed clubs are not planning to buy the Swedish footballer before the summer window. All but one. Indeed, the sheikhs from Paris Grand have set their sights on Dekaresha and want to check his transfer as soon as possible. Why? Simply because they have not recovered since the departure of Kylian Mbappe. They lack a person capable of leading the team's attack. And this is becoming a real problem. No one can take on the role of a leader, and in crisis moments, the attack becomes incapable. The management wants to quickly resolve it by purchasing Dekaresha. The Parisians even prepared 100 million euros to convince the Sporting colleague not to hinder the Swedes' transfer. However, the biggest hitch lies in the player's own desire. Dekaresha also tends to stay in the Portuguese capital until the end of the season. He doesn't want to abandon the team in such difficult times. More club options will be available during the summer. English grands are not planning to negotiate the purchase until the end of the season. Spanish clubs also support them in this desire. In addition to everything, there is information that Luis Enrique personally rejected the offer to buy De Jong, telling the management that he will not get much playing time. The Spaniard's philosophy is as stubborn and incomprehensible as a mule. He doesn't want to change the situation that existed when Colomani transferred to Paris Saint-Germain. The handling of the situation during Colomani's transfer to Paris Saint-Germain, the management wanted to sign a bright forward. Initially, he didn't fit the main coach's idea. Consequently, the Frenchman settled on the reserve bench and was expected to leave the team soon. I wouldn't want Victor to repeat the fate of the former Eintracht forward, so, in my opinion, he should not agree to a loud move to Paris Saint-Germain in the middle of the season. Barcelona has undoubtedly fallen into a crisis, at least if you go by the results in the Spanish La Liga. In the last 5 matches, the Catalans have lost 10 points, squandering all the advantage they had gained at the start. Now, 2 Madrid giants are hot on their heels. They even overtake if you consider the lost points. What are the reasons for such a fall? In my opinion, everything is on the surface. Physical fatigue plus the absence of adequate rotation. And the creative crisis of Hunteflick himself, who hasn't offered any new ideas since the start of the season. Maybe Barcelona should hire a new coach who will shake up this team. The promising candidacy is right on the management's table. And what will happen with Hunteflick? Nothing. He will also keep coaching Barcelona. They will just give him an assistant who has proven himself well in the position of one of the team's coaches. His name is Thiago Alcantara. After Hunteflick's appointment, the Spaniard worked in Barcelona for some time and helped him better adapt to the new challenge. That was the initial thought, but Thiago's role turned out to be much deeper and more important. He helped not only the German coach, but also the entire team to find that elusive balance. The Spaniard especially got along well with the younger generation of players. And it was under his guidance that such names as Marc Casada, Marc Bernal, and Gerard Martin appeared at the base of Barcelona. The first one is now an indispensable player from the start. Perhaps there would not have been such a baby boom in Barcelona if Thiago Alcantara had not rushed to it in the summer. Possibly in alliance with him, Hunteflick will take a fresh look at Barcelona's problems, and they will find a solution together. But the leadership must also come to terms with this action. The team urgently needs some depth of composition, so as not to finally drown in the spring. After all, you understand the ones being created now are just buds. The fruits will be closer to the end of the season. Reinforcement is needed in winter. especially for defense and attack. After all, the same names appear repeatedly in the starting lineup. These footballers physically can't play 90 minutes every 3 days. The crisis at Barca can be resolved, but only with the combined efforts of everyone involved in the club's activities. Ronaldo is reuniting with Mourinho. What are the rumors about the sensational move to Turkey hide? Turkish media are teasing us with colorful headlines, though it's hardly their fault. I won't accuse them of clickbait. I'm guilty of it myself. But just imagine the fantastic resonance. Even a small hint that a star of such magnitude as Ronaldo might end up in the Turkish league is interesting to the international football community. The possible reunion of Ronaldo and Mourinho. There were times when they worked together at Real Madrid, and then El Clasico was the most dramatic confrontation in football. When two such football giants come together in one team, it's definitely worth expecting passion on the field. But Mourinho himself denies these rumors. The Portuguese coach says, "Why do I need your Cristiano when I have 3 great forwards in my squad?" Such words, by the way, can put him in a tight spot. And he will go to Fenerbahce to prove that all the others will pale in comparison to his greatness. This transition would have greatly boosted the entire Turkish championship, and many more footballers from the European top leagues would start coming there. That is, the same thing would have happened that happened after Cristiano's move to Al Nassr. And yet the Portuguese is such a great figure, who can change the attitude towards the entire championship just by his presence. So, such a transfer would have benefited Turkish football authorities, and they could have cooperated and started working on attracting the falling one. Indeed, these Turks would still need to find sheikhs who could bury footballers in mountains of gold. But all this fuss is on the coffee grounds, after a series of news from Turkish media about Fenerbahce's interest. At the moment, nothing suggests that this transfer is even slightly real. Meanwhile, Cristiano's career in Saudi Arabia is progressing well. He continues to set goal-scoring records, even there. And as far as I know, he is now one of the best strikers in the history of Al Nassr. With such effectiveness, he could well end up at the top of this list. The Portuguese only needs 30 balls to become the top one. And what for Ronaldo to score some pitiful 30 goals? It's just a matter of 1 or 2 seasons. And if Cristiano extends his contract with Al Nassr for a couple more years, he will definitely top the list of bombardiers. Or can he once again shake up the football world with his transfer to Fenerbahce? It's up to the Portuguese to decide. A new generation of fighters is emerging in the Armenian national team. For example, Zaire Tiknizian, who had a failed last season. Even in the summer, the Lokomotiv footballer could have gone to Europe. In September, Dmitry Ulyanov, sports director of the Lokomotives, said Seville wanted to rent Zaire, but Loka refused. Muscovites aim to profit well from selling their gift. According to Sport Express information, Seville is still following the player and plans a transfer. Seville is not rich now, so it's not a fact that something will come out of this. Sales of the Andalusians likely play a significant role. The technician appears as a defender, prepared for a higher-level fight. Athletic with a sharp start, capable of quickly scanning the situation on the field and making the right decisions. Seville's strong defense today will make it tough to outplay them. With such a large volume of work, loss of concentration is simply inevitable. Besides Aiti Knyazian, Eduard Spurtian from Krasnodar also has prospects of moving to Europe. Atalanta is following the Armenian. In November, footballer Rafael Pimenta's agent met with Bergamo's leadership. Considering that Spartiana is promoting Pimenta, who inherited the Minoriola Empire, we can be optimistic about the future of the defender. However, he himself does not want to leave Krasnodar. And where would he go? He has spoken about this more than once. Spurtian is waiting and they were really interested. But they refused the transfer for political reasons and they were really interested. But they refused the transfer for political reasons. The option with Atalanta is not much worse, except that the bar will be higher right away. And breaking into the base is still a task. But Spurtian has been steadily pulling Krasnodar for a couple of seasons and almost does not sit out, playing in different roles. The same Miranchuk and Spurtian are so good that, as RB Sport writes, they're going to buy him Paris Saint-Germain. The prince agrees to pay 20 million euros for him. Spurtian will go for Matvei Safonov along the worn-out road, which, by the way, at this rate can become a real window to Europe for the Krasnodar guys, especially if Safonov and Spurtian can become important players for Paris Saint-Germain. Chelsea made a stunning comeback in the match against Tottenham. The team didn't get into the game right away. The first few minutes were a complete nightmare for them, as absolutely nothing was going their way, even things that couldn't possibly go wrong. To top it all off, Cucurella couldn't find proper boots before the game and made a good cosplay of Steven Gerrard. Both losses of the ball by the Spaniard became consequential, but the two missed ones didn't upset as much as the game of the London team did. It felt like 11 random people who just decided to chase the ball had come out for a snack. This was especially noticeable during the ball draw from their penalty area. We are used to seeing that Londoners try to get out of defense through a short pass, but here there was no one to pass to. The pressing of Tottenham players simply cut off Chelsea's defense from the rest of the team, and those players who were left behind the ball line, as if they were left to fend for themselves. They stood and waited for the weather at sea. I was very disappointed with Chelsea's preparation for this game. The game's dynamics shifted in the second half. All it took was to make a small adjustment in Chelsea's structure and bring on Gylfi. And now the game is already transformed. What did Maresco change? He removed Lavia, returned Caicedo to his usual position, and released a profiled fullback. He also told the defensive zone players to drop back during the ball draw. And it worked. Tottenham's pressing stopped being so effective, and Chelsea's attack became sharper and scored 3 goals in one half. Two of which, by the way, scored 3 goals in one half. Two of which, by the way, were scored from penalties, which are beyond dispute. Of course, they were executed by Cole Palmer. Especially cool was his second shot when he calmly, with a Panenka, outplayed the Tottenham goalkeeper. This guy definitely lives up to his nickname. You would never know what he's been through. With this beautiful strike, Cole Palmer broke Yaya Touré's record for the number of consecutive penalties scored, stopping at a mark of 12 balls. And each new penalty he scores will update this record. In general, for a neutral viewer, it was a great match. At the very least for the reason that 7 goals were scored in it. One of the teams made a comeback, recovering from a 2-0 score. You can find a review of this fun trip in Telegram. The link to it will be in the description and in the pinned comment. Friends, we gather reviews of all the most interesting matches every day there. And so you don't have to search for them, scour the entire internet. Just subscribe and enjoy football. Palmer's second goal is truly a work of art. I would never have thought that a penalty could be dodged so beautifully. Who would you name as one of the main architects of Barcelona's success this season? Of course, Lamine Yamal comes to mind. The Catalan media even coined the term Yamal dependence. After all, this young talent makes a difference on the field. But it's also worth noting the team's captain Rafinha, who didn't give up after a disappointing season under Xavi's leadership, and showed his mastery to the whole world. The Brazilian rightfully wears the captain's armband. He has outstanding leadership qualities, and you would follow such a footballer through fire and water. But Barca may lose their captain in the near future. Grande is interested in Rafinha's successes in the new season and is preparing an offer for him that he cannot refuse. The government of this country continues to work on strengthening the attractiveness of its football league, and the recent purchase of Rafinha fits into its plans. The Brazilian appears content with his current role at Barcelona. He shows a desire to perform for this club's emblem, which his reaction to failures also speaks of. But Rafinha might be tempted by an offer from Saudi Arabia, and no European grant will offer him that kind of money. The source does not specify the exact amount, but says that it is in world football. It can be assumed that in Saudi Arabia, Rafinha is in world football. It's presumed Rafinha will earn around $100 million per season in Saudi Arabia. Karim Benzema and Neymar earn about the same amount. To accumulate the same wealth in Barcelona, Brazilians would need to spend their whole career there. Here, they offer to earn it all in just one season. No matter how devoted Rafinha is to the Barcelona emblem, it's not hard to imagine him agreeing to such an offer. Unfortunately, Barcelona may lose one of the creators of the team's success, simply because it can't compete with the oil sheiks in financial terms. But for now, Rafinha is playing in Barcelona, and he hasn't agreed to move to Saudi Arabia yet. Let's see what Joan Laporta will do to convince the key player to stay with the team. Kylian Mbappe's career took a very ambiguous turn after moving to Real Madrid. In Paris, he was a fan favorite, a superstar, and the team's main hope. But the start of his career in the Royal Club showed both gaming and behavioral problems of the striker. This was reflected in his performances for the French national team. First, The footballer decided not to go to its location to better prepare for matches for the new team, and then he was simply not called up. This was a surprise for the entire football world, as Kylian is not just the leader of the French team, he is its captain. And such a person, the main coach decided to leave out of the application for the League of Nations matches. No one knows what served as the real reason. There was information that everything is based on recent problems of Mbappe with the law. However, these conversations were not confirmed. After a long month, Kylian himself commented on the situation with the call. France is the most important thing for me. I requested a break in September. I didn't play, feeling unready. In November, the coach decided. I wanted to play for the national team in November, but the coach didn't call me up, and I can't say why. I'm sorry, if he wants to, he'll say it. I can't do this, said Mbappe. But it didn't become any clearer. And in general, this is all such unattractive behavior. Well, you said it, but say what kind of manipulations, childish manipulations. Kylian did not go due to the coach's decision. We knew this even before the upcoming interview. But Mbappe didn't answer the key question. Some sources claim that there is a conflict between the head coach and the team leader. Still, he preferred to play for France, preparing for the matches for Real Madrid. You don't expect such actions from a team captain. That's why they pushed him further, so as not to strain his eyes. Perhaps some of the team partners also didn't like Kylian's behavior. Not only did he mess up at an important tournament, but he also refused to go to the team's location. Does he think he's better than us? Probably. That's the question the players of the French national team were asking. Let's see what the future holds for Kylian and the national team. International football is now on hiatus until spring. During this period, conflicts can be resolved. It's also not a fact that Mbappe will play for France under Deschamps again. It may be that the relationship between the coach and the captain is irreparably damaged. This may seem absurd, but the national team has already refused Benzema, who also played a crucial role. So anything is possible. Real Madrid certainly took Girona apart, successfully took advantage of Barcelona's mistake. Now, Slovenia is only 2 points behind the Catalans, having a game in hand. But Carlo Ancelotti's position remains precarious as ever. The situation on the home front does not add much weight to him in the eyes of the team's management, and his future will primarily depend on Madrid's successes in the Champions League. So far, things aren't going well. Madrid occupies the last line, giving the right to participate in the playoff tournament. And any slip-up could mean the team's elimination from the tournament. If that happens, Ancelotti's fate will be sealed. After all, a group stage knockout is not merely a failure, but a fiasco. Real's management hopes that such a situation will not occur, but they continue to slowly select a specialist for the head coach position. At the moment, Santiago Solari, who works in Madrid in an administrative position, is a strong candidate. But he already had experience as a team coach. Real is also considering other options. In Spain, there are rumors that the Slovaches want to invite their legend, RAÚL González, to replace Ancelotti. The former forward has not yet had the opportunity to coach a big club, but during his time in the Real system, he has proven himself to be a talented specialist who can develop young players. And the Slovaches could use such a person right now, considering the difficulties in signing new footballers. It's always nice to fall back on the academy, as the sworn rival of Real, Barcelona, does. In principle, RAÚL could also try himself in the role of the main coach of the Slovaches if Carlo Ancelotti has to prematurely leave the team. In this situation, few expect the season to end successfully. And why not try a young coach in such circumstances? In Madrid, an inexperienced coach was bet on. Maybe the second time will also be lucky. That's all for today. Thanks for watching and subscribing. Don't forget that we have our own radio show on Radio Chanson America. Link in the description. Well, my name is Kirill Cast, and this was your daily dose of football. Peace to your house in Johanga, friends.